All right. Moving on. Now let's talk about the reactivity series. Okay, the reactivity series, what essentially is, it tells you when metals react to other substances, they form positive ions. And the reactivity is related to the tendency it forms the positive ions, how easily it can form these ions. So the more reactive the metal, a more reactive the metal, the more you can displace the less reactive metals. So if it's higher on the reactivity list, it's going to be able to displace those that are lower on the reactivity list. For example, zinc and iron oxide, is higher on the reactivity list compared to iron. So zinc can displace iron to form zinc oxide, and you can extract iron. So sometimes when they're asking you questions on, oh, there's something you need to extract this specific, you need to extract this metal. How would you be able to do it? If I want to extract like copper, I can use just a more reactive metal and just displace it to just take the actual copper itself. So that's how the reactivity series kind of works. For triple sciences, you have to memorize the order of the reactivity series. And I emphasize this because later, when we move on to talk about electrolysis, you need to know the details of it. So you need to memorize the reactivity series well. Use, I think, a mnemonic. Usually there is one. Now I'm just going to talk about the reactions that are involved. First, let's talk about the reaction with oxygen. The higher the it is on the reactivity series, is obviously going to be more reactive. If it is really high on the reactivity series, it's going to burn with oxygen to form an oxide. If it's below carbon, it's going to form oxides when heated, but it burns if it's a powder. If it's copper, it's going to form an oxide when heated, and there's not going to be any reaction for silver, gold, or platinum. Silver, gold, and platinum, these three metals, they have no reaction for anything. Absolutely none of these. They're just so unreactive that they don't react with anything. At least not with any of these on the list. Reaction with water, anything below carbon, not going to give a reaction. Everything above carbon is going to react with this water, and it's going to give off a hydrogen gas. The test for this is using a, I think, glowing splint or burning splint, I believe, by putting this in, and then it's going to give a squeaky pop sound. I believe that is the test for hydrogen gas. Reactions with acids, anything below hydrogen, not going to react. So even copper is not going to react in this case. Zinc and iron, it's going to react slowly and give up a hydrogen gas. And as it goes higher up on the reactivity series, it's going to react even more and more vigorously. All of it's going to release hydrogen gas, but it's just going to be react more vigorously when you get higher on the reactivity series. So that is the reactivity series on its own. There is a question, again, on plan and investigation. And if you remember in biology, when I explained planning and investigation, how you would do this, it's just describing the experiment, control variables, results. This works exactly the same with this question. So I'm not going to break down this question too much. I'm just going to tell you that this is the form of it. So it's telling you to plan an investigation, find the order of reactivity with 3 unknown metals, and you can figure it out using the temperature change. So describe the experiment. Let's start with one metal. You're going to put this metal, put it reacted with with some acid. It says here hydrochloric acid, reacted, mix it, put it in a polystyrene cup, figure out the temperature change. That's your describing the experiment. There's definitely more details than what I just said, but it's just describing that experiment. Control variables, same volume of hydrochloric acid, same volume of, same concentration, same pH, same state of metal. So powder, solid, same volume of metal that you're using. All of these control variables, just start naming them and naming them. That will already give you marks. Final section of it, results. So how would you be able to deduce these results? You do this with the 3 metals, you repeat it, then you figure out which one is higher in the reactivity series by figuring out which one has the higher temperature change. If it changes the most, then that's going to be the most reactive. So that's just kind of how you would break down this question. So you can see here, talks about describing the experiment, control variables, or like repeat to make it more accurate, and then results. That's literally that's kind of the structure of planning and investigation, and it works across all sciences. So if you see plan and investigation, just think of those 3 steps. That was the way I would go at it.